I finally found someone who truly values me. My name is Jolly. I'm 41, and I work in industrial design at Thornwind Systems in Phoenix. For 13 years, I was married to Liana. One Tuesday evening, while I was in my workshop sketching plans for a new hydraulic system, she called from her girls' trip to the U.S. Open. The tremor in her voice told me what was coming before she even finished her sentence. "I've moved your inheritance into my personal account," she said, her words slicing through the desert heat that lingered in the air. "My new boyfriend appreciates successful women." I set my pencil down and glanced at the mountains. $3.2 million. That was what my grandmother had left me just 6 months earlier. Liana thought she had just stolen my future. "Thanks for letting me know," I replied. The line went silent for a beat. In the background, I could hear laughter, voices, someone ordering drinks. She was expecting rage, maybe even begging, but I gave her nothing. "That's it?" she asked. "Billy, I'm leaving you. I'm starting fresh with someone who understands ambition, okay?" She hung up. I sat quietly, listening to the hum of the air conditioner and the faint rush of cars on the interstate. Liana had always been meticulous with money. As a financial planner at Wesley & Associates, she helped others safeguard their assets and plan for retirement. And yet she thought she could take mine. She knew every trick in the book about moving money around. What she didn't know was that I'd been watching her for 2 months. The phone buzzed, a text from her. "Don't try to stop the transfer. It's already done." I deleted the message and went back to my sketches. Tomorrow would be interesting. Diana had no idea what she'd actually taken, and she had no clue what I'd already done to protect what really mattered. The woman who'd spent 13 years telling me I didn't understand money was about to learn something about preparation. I finished the hydraulic design around midnight, then locked up the workshop. As I walked to the house, I caught myself almost smiling. Diana thought she was smart, thought she'd planned this perfectly. She thought wrong. The house felt different without her things scattered around, without her constant criticism about my work clothes or my weekend projects. For the first time in months, I could actually think clearly. And what I was thinking about was how Diana's own expertise was about to destroy her. Diana and I met at a trade conference in Las Vegas 8 years ago. She was representing her firm's investment services, and I was there showcasing some new equipment designs for Thornwind. She impressed me with how she talked about financial security, building wealth slowly and carefully. She seemed like the kind of person who could help me turn my engineering career into something stable. We got married 2 years later in a small ceremony in Tucson. Her parents flew in from Colorado. My dad drove down from Flagstaff. Diana wanted something bigger, more expensive, but I convinced her we should save the money for a house instead. She agreed, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes when her friends started posting pictures from their elaborate weddings. The inheritance came as a surprise to both of us. My grandmother had invested in some tech companies back in the 80s, and her portfolio had grown far beyond what anyone expected. When the lawyer called to tell me about the money, Diana was sitting right next to me. I watched her face change as he explained the details. "We need to be smart about this," she said afterward. "Put it in high-yield accounts, maybe some blue-chip stocks. Nothing risky." But over the next few months, something shifted. Diana started taking more business trips to New York. She said she was learning about new investment strategies from East Coast firms. She'd come home talking about how much more sophisticated the financial scene was there, how Phoenix was small-time compared to Manhattan. The first time I suspected something was wrong was when I found a restaurant receipt in her jacket pocket. Dinner for 2 at some place called Loron in Manhattan. $87 just for wine. Diana claimed it was a business dinner with a potential client. Then I started noticing the late-night phone calls, the way she'd step outside to take them. Her laugh was different during those conversations, lighter somehow. She'd started dressing differently too, buying clothes she'd never worn in Phoenix, things that seemed designed for someone else's attention. 3 weeks ago, I hired a private investigator. His name was Gerald, and he specialized in financial infidelity. Within a week, he had photos of Diana with a guy named Michael Torres at 3 different restaurants in Manhattan. Michael worked for a Wall Street trading firm, drove a BMW, lived in a penthouse apartment. Gerald also discovered that Diana had been moving small amounts of money around, testing different accounts, learning how to access my inheritance without triggering any immediate alerts. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. That's when I decided to beat her to it. The morning after Diana's call, I drove to the office like nothing had happened. My supervisor, Frank, asked if everything was okay because I was actually whistling while I worked on the new conveyor system designs. I told him everything was fine, and for the first time in months, that was true. Around noon, my phone rang. "Diana, Billy, I need you to sign some papers," she said. "My lawyer says we need to make this official." "What papers?" "The divorce documents and the financial transfers. You need to acknowledge that the inheritance money was moved with your consent." I sat back in my chair and looked out at the parking lot. A couple of trucks were delivering materials for the afternoon shift. and the guys were unloading steel beams in the desert sun. Honest work, straightforward problems with clear solutions. Diana, when you moved that money, how much was in the account? Don't play games with me. You know exactly how much. But do you? Silence. Then 3.2 million. Your grandmother's inheritance. Check again. I hung up and went back to work. An hour later, my phone started buzzing with text messages. Diana was frantically trying to reach me, but I was in the middle of a meeting with the production team about equipment modification. By the time I checked my phone, there were 7 missed calls and 12 text messages, each one more desperate than the last. The final message read, "Call me now, something's wrong with the account." I didn't call her back. That evening Gerald called me. "Your wife contacted an attorney today," he said. "Seems she's having some trouble accessing the funds she thought she transferred. Is that right? Apparently there was only about 75,000 in the account she accessed. She's demanding to know where the rest of the money went." I thanked Gerald and hung up. Then I opened my laptop and logged into my cryptocurrency wallet. $3.1 million safely converted and stored across multiple blockchain accounts that Diana would never find, never understand, and never be able to touch. I'd moved the real money 2 months ago, the day after Gerald showed me the first photos of Diana with Michael. The 75,000 I'd left in the traditional bank account was a test, and Diana had failed it spectacularly. She'd stolen what she thought was my future, but all she'd actually taken was pocket change. The real inheritance was locked away in digital assets that required technical knowledge she didn't possess and security protocols she'd never heard of. My phone rang again, Diana's number. This time I answered. "Where is the rest of the money?" she demanded. "What rest? Don't lie to me, Billy. I know there was more than 75. You took what was in the account," I said. "That's all there was." The next morning Diana called from her lawyer's office. I could hear the attorney in the background, a woman with a sharp voice asking questions about asset declarations and financial disclosure requirements. "Billy, we need you to come to Phoenix immediately," Diana said. "There are discrepancies in the inheritance documentation. I'm at work. This is more important than your job. My attorney says you've hidden assets, and that's illegal in a divorce proceeding." I looked around the shop floor where 3 guys were assembling a new filtration system for one of our mining clients. Real work. Solving real problems. "Diana, I haven't hidden anything. You took the money from the account. That's what was there." "That's impossible. The inheritance was $3.2 million. I have the documentation from your grandmother's lawyer." "Then maybe you should call him." I did. "He says he transferred the full amount to your account 6 months ago, and you took what was in the account when you accessed." I said, "I'm not sure what you want me to tell you." The attorney took the phone. "Mr. Thompson, this is Patricia Walsh. I represent your wife in this matter. We need complete financial disclosure, including all accounts, investments, and holdings you may have acquired since the inheritance. I'll be happy to provide documentation for any accounts that existed when Diana accessed them. That's not sufficient. We need a complete accounting of all assets." "Then you'll need to subpoena my records," I said. "But I'm not hiding anything. Diana took the money that was available, and she's welcome to it." I hung up and went back to work. That afternoon, Gerald called again. "Your wife's attorney filed for emergency asset preservation," he said. "They're trying to freeze any accounts associated with your name or social security number. Will that be a problem?" "Not for the cryptocurrency holding. Those aren't tied to traditional banking systems in ways they can trace or freeze, but they're going to make your life difficult in other ways." He was right. By evening, I had 3 voice messages from different attorneys, 2 from investigators Diana had hired, and 1 from a forensic accountant who specialized in finding hidden assets. Diana was pulling out every stop, calling in every favor from her financial planning network. The forensic accountant, a guy named Stephen Clark, actually showed up at Thornwind the next day. He was waiting in the parking lot when I got to work, a thin man in an expensive suit, who looked completely out of place among the industrial equipment. "Mr. Thompson, I'd like to discuss your financial situation," he said. "I'm late for work. This will only take a few minutes. Your wife is concerned that you've moved substantial assets to avoid divorce settlement obligations." I stopped walking and looked at him. My wife moved the inheritance money to her personal account while she was on vacation with her boyfriend. Now she's claiming I've hidden assets. Does that seem logical to you? Stephen's expression didn't change. Financial disputes in divorce proceedings often involve complex motivation. If you cooperate with the asset investigation, it could help resolve this matter more quickly. The assets she was looking for were in the account she accessed. She took them. Case closed. "Mr. Thompson, $3.2 million doesn't simply disappear." "No," I said. "It doesn't." I walked into the building and left him standing in the parking lot. That weekend, Diana came back to Phoenix. She used her key to get into the house Saturday morning while I was at the hardware store picking up materials for a deck project. When I got home, she was sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open and bank statements scattered around. "We need to talk," she said. I set down the lumber and looked at her. She was wearing one of the new outfits. Something sleek and expensive that looked like it belonged in Manhattan rather than Phoenix. Her hair was different too, styled in a way that made her seem like a stranger. "About what?" "About where you moved the money." "I didn't move any money." "You did. Billy, stop playing games. I know you converted the inheritance into something I can't access. I need you to tell me what you did." I sat down across from her. "Diana, you called me from New York and told me you were leaving me for another man. You said you'd moved my inheritance to your personal account. What exactly do you think we need to discuss?" "The account only had $75,000 in it. The inheritance documentation clearly shows $3.2 million was transferred to your account. And what happened to it after that? You tell me." I looked at the bank statements she'd spread out. She'd gone through every account we'd ever shared, every investment we'd made together, looking for traces of the missing money. What she didn't understand was that cryptocurrency existed entirely outside the traditional financial system she knew so well. "Diana, you're a financial planner. You help people protect their assets from risk, right?" "Yes." "What's the biggest risk to a traditional bank account?" She stared at me. "What are you talking about? What could make money in a bank account vulnerable to unauthorized access?" Her expression changed. For the first time since she'd called me from New York, she looked uncertain. "Billy, what did you do?" "I protected my inheritance from someone I suspected might try to steal it." "You suspected for how long?" "About 2 months." The color drained from her face. 2 months. "Gerald has some very interesting photos of you and Michael in Manhattan. Dinner dates, hotel lobbies, a weekend in the Hamptons last month when you told me you were at a financial planning conference in Denver." Diana's hands were shaking now. "You hired a private investigator." "I hired protection," I said. "And it was the smartest money I ever spent." "Where is the inheritance money?" "In a place where people can't steal it while they're on vacation with their boyfriends." "Billy, I need that money." "No, you don't. You needed my money." "There's a difference." She started crying then, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage and frustration. "You can't do this to me. I have plans. Michael and I were going to start an investment firm together with my grandmother's money. It was our money. We're married." "We're married?" I said. "You ended that when you called me from New York." Diana left the house that Sunday, but she didn't go back to New York. Instead, she checked into a hotel downtown and began what she called her financial recovery campaign. She hired 3 different attorneys, 2 forensic accountants, and a technology specialist who claimed he could track digital assets. Gerald kept me updated on her activities. "She's spending a fortune trying to find money she'll never locate," he told me Tuesday afternoon. "The tech guy she hired is legitimate. But cryptocurrency wallets with proper security protocols are essentially unbreakable without the private keys. And those are safe, unless you wrote them down somewhere she could find them." I hadn't. The private keys were memorized and stored in a safety deposit box at a bank Diana didn't know about in a town she'd never visited. Even if she somehow discovered the existence of the cryptocurrency accounts, she'd never be able to access them. But Diana wasn't giving up. Thursday morning she showed up at Thornwind with 2 attorneys and a court order demanding that I provide complete financial disclosure under oath. Frank, my supervisor, called me into his office. "Billy, there are lawyers here to see you." "I know. Is this going to be a problem for the company?" "No, it's a divorce proceeding. My wife made some bad assumptions about money that belongs to me." Frank nodded. "Handle it however you need to. Take the afternoon off if you have to." I met with Diana's legal team in the conference room we usually used for client presentations. The lead attorney, Patricia Walsh, had brought a court reporter and a stack of documents. "Ms. Thompson, under oath, do you acknowledge receiving an inheritance of $3.2 million from your grandmother 6 months ago?" "Yes." "And do you acknowledge that this inheritance was deposited into a joint bank account accessible to both you and your wife?" "No." Patricia looked surprised. "The bank records show the deposit was made to account number ending in 40047, which is listed under both your names. The inheritance was deposited into my personal account." Diana had access to that account because I'd added her as an authorized user years ago. But the account was in my name only. And what happened to the funds in that account? Diana accessed them and moved them to her personal account. All of the funds that were available when she accessed the account. Patricia exchanged glances with the other attorney. "Mr. Thompson, Are you claiming that the full inheritance amount was not present in the account when your wife accessed it? I'm stating that Diana took whatever money was in the account when she accessed it. Where was the remainder of the inheritance? What remainder? The questioning went on for 2 hours. They asked about other accounts. Investment portfolios, real estate holdings, business partnerships, cryptocurrency wallets, offshore accounts, and trust funds. I answered every question honestly. I had no other traditional accounts, no investment portfolios they could trace, no real estate beyond our shared house, no business partnerships, and no trust funds. I didn't lie once. When they asked directly about cryptocurrency holdings, I told them I'd made some investments in digital assets. When they asked for details, I provided the public wallet addresses which showed the current balances, but gave them no way to access or control the funds. These accounts contained substantial amounts. Patricia said, looking at the printout. Yes. How do we access them? You don't. Friday morning, Diana called me one last time. Her voice was different now, hollow and desperate. Billy, I know what you did. What did I do? You converted the inheritance to cryptocurrency before I could access it. My tech specialist confirmed it. The transactions happened 2 months ago, right after you hired that investigator. I was sitting in my workshop, putting the finishing touches on a new hydraulic pump design. The morning sun was coming through the windows, and I could hear the guys setting up equipment in the main shop. Diana, you took the money that was in the account. You got exactly what you tried to steal. $75,000. That's nothing. That won't even cover what I've spent on lawyers trying to find the rest. Maybe you should have thought about that before you called me from New York. Billy, Michael left me when he found out I didn't actually have the money. I lost my job because my clients found out about the divorce and don't trust me anymore. I have nothing. You have $75,000. That's not enough to start over. It's more than most people have. I need the rest of the inheritance. No, you don't. You wanted it. There's a difference. The line went quiet for a long moment. Then, how do I access the cryptocurrency accounts? You don't. Billy, I'm begging you. You called me from your vacation with another man and told me you were stealing my inheritance. You said your boyfriend appreciated successful women. Remember? I made a mistake. Yes, you did. I hung up and went back to work. 6 months later, Diana's financial life had completely collapsed. The fraud investigation that resulted from her attempted theft of the inheritance money led to a deeper examination of her professional conduct. Her former clients discovered that she'd been using similar tactics to access their accounts, moving small amounts to test their security protocols while claiming it was routine portfolio management. Michael Torres, the Wall Street trader she'd planned to start an investment firm with, had immediately cut all contact when he realized she was essentially penniless rather than wealthy as she'd represented herself. Her reputation in Phoenix's financial planning community was destroyed when word spread about her personal theft and affair, making her appear untrustworthy and incompetent in managing money for others. She was eventually charged with attempted financial fraud and lost her professional licenses. The $75,000 she'd managed to steal was consumed by legal fees and fines, leaving her working part-time at a retail store while living in a small apartment across town. Meanwhile, I used a portion of the cryptocurrency inheritance to establish a technology education fund at the local community college, helping students learn about digital asset protection and financial security. The irony wasn't lost on me that Diana's betrayal had forced me to become an expert in the very technology that ultimately protected my future. I kept working at Thornwyn, designing equipment and solving straightforward problems with clear solutions. On weekends, I finished the deck project and started work on a new workshop building. The house felt different now, better somehow, without the constant tension of living with someone I couldn't trust. Diana's attempt to steal my future had taught me something valuable about preparation and innovation. Sometimes the best defense against traditional deception is thinking one step ahead and embracing change.